At the last meeting, the council directed us to, not consider, but to work with Dr. Stenstrom, who was our distinguished consultant that's been helping us track all of the events at Hyperion, particularly from a technical nature, to modify or work within his contract to select someone or reach out to someone that could assist Dr. Stenstrom, but more a boots-on-the-ground type of person that would help him really look at the day-to-day management of the facility there at Hyperion. And I'm happy to say that we have identified someone that's actually was a former a head of a county division overseeing a water treatment plant. So we are working right now with Dr. Stenstrom to amend his contract to accommodate this additional consultant, and we will revise the agreement so that we can bring him on board as soon as possible to begin working, actually spending the first month, if you will, significant hours down at the plant, kind of looking at things and really spending the time talking with the engineers down there. He can talk their language and will report back to us, and we'll certainly report back to the council. In terms of our efforts with AQMD, on September 5th, the Air Quality Management District hosted a hearing board meeting that several of the council members and staff attended. As you recall, we, the city, did submit a letter prior to that meeting outlining 6 modifications or recommendations to Hyperion's current order of abatement. Happy to say that at that meeting, our letter really seemed to be the focal point of the board members in addressing our items directly to representatives from Hyperion. The board did vote to add more conditions to the order of abatement, including pretty much all of our recommendations, happy to say. If you recall, those conditions included responding to the community members' complaints, properly reporting odor investigation results. There were issues related to equipment refurbishment or repair schedules that needed to be updated monthly, that they will be part of the abatement order. One of the big items was repairing or replacing the doors to the truck loading facilities. Yes.
On that note, having sat through that 3.5-hour hearing, I think that they misinterpreted. I meant to actually reach out to you about this one. They had a much better testifying engineer this time around, much more competent than the last one. I was at that first hearing that was like over 7 hours. But I don't think they got their facts straight. So one of the points we made when we were touring was they are moving the trucks to load the waste, to spread the waste. And the idea we brought forward was, why not have a spreader? They have spreaders for agricultural purposes, et cetera. That way you don't have to move the cab out and keep the doors open. I think that was lost in translation between our letter and the testimony that I heard from the engineer. So I'd like us to reiterate that. Okay. The woman actually said under oath that the doors are closed to the best of her ability, but we learned from our tour that they're not. They're remaining open for some of these loading purposes. Correct. And that can be solved for, and that has a direct effect on our residents. So I wanted to make sure we differentiate that.
Yes, and we will have another opportunity because at the end of that particular meeting, the AQMD board did go ahead and schedule for November 19th, kind of a follow-up to see where things are at. So we will send a letter prior to that meeting, and we'll make sure to include that amongst a few other things that we're talking about, including in that letter. And then just final thing with AQMD is since September 3rd, they have responded to approximately 97 odor complaints. So the odor complaints are still coming in, and they actually issued 2 notices of violation for public nuisance relating to these odors on September 6th and September 7th. And then finally, we were notified by Hyperion that on September 19th, they'll be performing a load test at their Headworks facility from 7 a.m. to 11, and during this time it may be necessary to interrupt the service of the associated odor control systems that they implement. So those measures will be put in place and may cause additional odors during that time. That's all I have for this.
So I add a couple quick things. One is, As you know, I reached out to Mrs. Romero, who's the Department of Sanitation. She's the one we actually asked to be let go, and LA City decided not to do that, instead replaced their plant manager. Despite that, she's still receptive, and because she supports having this person, I think that was the thing that we were concerned about as a council, is that will LA City actually support having someone on the premises? And the answer is yes, it's a public facility, we will. Second thing is, I met with City Councilwoman Tracy Park, who is the district just north of us in LA, and expressed our extreme frustrations about Hyperion. She couldn't say much because of the threat of litigation, but she listened to our concerns. And then finally, having been at the two of the last AQMD, what do they call them, governing board hearings, it is clear that all 5 members of that board support us. I mean, it was unanimous that this is incompetent. At the first hearing, they called one of the engineers. He said, "You're lying under oath." The second one, very clear in terms of wanting us to do an additional check-in, as you mentioned, in November, as well as embracing all of our additional order requests. So I thought that was favorable.
Yes,
Progress.
actually, one other key thing that came up at the last board hearing, if you recall, the Inspector Haynes, who understands that facility inside and out, is no longer the inspector for this facility, but the board did ask that he attend the next meeting. So we're hoping that actually takes place. And we were hoping also to put our new person that will be working with Dr. Stenstrom in contact with Mr. Haynes so they can exchange information, because again, he's very cognizant of what's going on down there, and was very, very pointed about his concerns.
Colleagues, anything to add or questions?
Just that this next check-in hearing with AQMD is important because right now the deadline to lift the order of abatement is set for January of 2025. And we're still getting 90-some order complaints. And so we've discussed, we're going to send another letter saying until you can run this plant without violating your permit and causing order complaints, this abatement order should not be lifted. Because without AMQD's oversight, they're the ones that have the stick and the authority to make changes over there, and we can do our best to advocate and bring forward the data and the information to show that Hyperion is not doing their job correctly yet. So it's going to be an important meeting for us.
Thank you for adding that. Great point.